Well, we continue on our newest affiliate, 107.5 FM. Kevin Miller in the morning. Don't forget, next week, Miller's Mission will be living at the Walmart Garrity in Franklin. Once again, asking you to give a turkey, not be a turkey. Part 2 of our great funny videos now available at KIDOTalkRadio.com. Thanks to the Reverend Bill Roscoe of the Boise Rescue Mission. Our thanks to Team Mazda Subaru, Rob and Aaron, for, once again, sponsoring Miller's Mission, our friends at Camping World. That'll give us a place to stay. And, folks, as we look at this time of year, last night I'm outside letting the doggies out, Bama, Carolina, and Little Buster, and it's cold and it's raining. And imagine what would happen if you didn't have any food or shelter. By the way, I blog about this under Why I Dress Up as a Giant Turkey at KIDOTalkRadio.com to just, let you know it's just not all fun and games, but it's for a great cause. You can also go to any Walmart location right now. We're partnering with KTSY Radio and the Boise Rescue Mission for Hope Starts with a Meal for $15. You can feed Treasure Valley families, and you'll get a little sticker there, and you can sign your name saying, I donated. So thanks to Walmart, our friends at KTSY Radio, and the Boise Rescue Mission. Joining us now exclusively from Washington, D.C., our great friend, Senator Mike Crapo. Senator, good to have you with us.
Good morning, Kevin.
Well, what do you make of the president in China? Certainly, we're always concerned about North Korea, and it appears he's softening his mood on trade with China, and we know you care about money. You're the chairman of the banking committee, so we'll start with that, sir.
Well, I've been very pleased with the strong stance the president has been taking since his inauguration relating to reforming and strengthening our trade policy. That being said, there's been quite a bit of concern about whether our trading partners would back away from a strong United States stand. And I think that it's appropriate for the president to make necessary accommodations to get the strongest trading relationships possible. And frankly, countries like China need some strong pressure. So I'm glad to see the president engaging. And I think that so far what I see is he's making progress.
Well, that is good. What else do you think about on this move now that he's at South Korea, and certainly what's going on with North Korea and the idea of asking China and Russia to help?
Well, North Korea is becoming maybe the largest threat, although I'm not sure it's pushed Iran out of that top threat position. But nevertheless, I think that it's a very, very good thing for the president to be in that region and to be bringing focus to the issue. Again, I also believe that it's good that we have a president who's taking a strong stand. I think that we have had a far too soft a policy in the past, which is why North Korea now has a nuclear bomb and why I believe Iran will soon have one. And the president must engage Russia and China if we're to get a proper solution to this. If Russia and China won't engage, then that almost assures some kind of a stronger move will be necessary that will probably be less effective than what we could get if they were to help. It's also interesting to note that China, for the first time, has started to engage. And again, I think that President Trump's insistence is a part of that.
Indeed. Our great friend, Senator Crapo, with us. So let's talk about tax reform. The Democrats say it's bad. People say we're going to lose all these deductions. You're in the mix of it, Senator. What's the latest?
Well, first of all, with regard to the attacks, I just remind everyone that we have never proposed a reform of our tax code, at least in my memory, that was not attacked as being a tax cut for the wealthy and hurting poor and middle-class people. Not that those are honest attacks, they're just the standard attack. The reality is that the bill we are working on is one of the most powerful things that we could possibly do for our economy in general and for individuals and families and jobs in this country. And the bill is focused on bringing the strongest relief to the lower income categories and the middle class. And I think the argument that they're making about money going to the wealthy may be based on the fact that the bill also makes the United States competitive again by significantly reducing our corporate tax rate. But if you look at the data, about 50 to 75% of the corporate tax impact falls on workers, not on the wealthy. And it's estimated that this bill will increase the wages and increase the income the standard family has by several thousands of dollars a year and reduce their tax burdens by equally several $1,000s per year, depending on the tax category a person's in. So I'm really excited about this. This is going to make America much, much stronger in the world community and strengthen our families and individuals across the country.
Now, and we'll get that later today, the Senate's version on that. And then the House and the Senate will come together. Do you think there are any problems between the House version and the yet-to-be-revealed Senate version?
Well, there will definitely be differences, but both are being designed off of the same framework that was agreed to between the President and the leadership of the House and the Senate. So although there will be differences that need to be worked out, they will be differences based on the same format. And that format is significant reduction of the corporate tax and significant reduction of individual tax rates and simplification of the code. For example, doubling the standard deduction, which will be in both bills, is something that will make it so that most people in America don't have to itemize their taxes anymore, and will phenomenally simplify the tax preparation process for Americans who now have to spend countless hours or spend a lot of money getting assistance in preparing their tax returns.
Senator Crapo with us here at KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning on your station here. Senator, let's take a look at a few other issues going on when we take a look at the state of the Republican Party. How do you see it?
I'm still very pleased. You know, again, when you look at the national media, which I don't necessarily encourage people to do, you get just this constant drumbeat almost that nothing's happening in Congress and the president is making lots of mistakes and so forth. But the reality is that this is probably the most productive first year of any president's term that has ever happened. And a tremendous amount of good things are happening. And I think this tax package, if we can get it through, and I think we will be one of the highlights. But if you go back, we've seen the economy grow almost a full percentage point above the levels that it was when the president was elected and higher than the levels during the entire Obama presidency. I think over 2 million jobs have been added. The stock market is at highs, and there's confidence across the country that there is going to be economic growth. Add to that the fact that a very, very powerful and good new justice has been put on the Supreme Court, that many, many new strong originalist judges are being put on the courts, that we have passed major economic legislation and are working on more. And so I'm pretty happy about that. And I think that will all inure to the benefit of Republicans as we move forward, because people will gain a confidence that we can deliver and that we are going to deliver the kinds of reforms that will strengthen our country.
Senator, let's talk about firearms here. Obviously, you're on top of what happened in Texas here at the church, what happened in New York with the truck. Your thoughts on what you've been hearing on Capitol Hill concerning guns and safety?
Well, you know, every time there is a violent act, and unfortunately we're seeing more of them, then some try to turn the attention to gun control. And what they mean by that is to bar people from owning firearms. And I strongly support the Second Amendment. I've said for years and continue to say the solution isn't to stop law-abiding citizens from having their constitutional right to bear arms. We need to look for solutions where the problems are. And where is that? Well, there are probably 3 or 4 major reasons that we've identified. One, obviously, is terrorism, and we need to be addressing that. But in terms of those acts that were not terrorist-related, we're finding there are a lot of causes relating to socioeconomic unrest, particularly in the inner cities where jobs aren't available and people don't see a future and there's a lot of unrest. We need to deal with those economic problems. there's a lot of concern with regard to mental health concerns. In fact, I think the last couple have very clear ties to mental health concerns, and we can do better. I'm a sponsor of legislation that does help us to strengthen our approach to identifying and dealing with those who may be dangerous because of mental problems. And there's a number of others. My point is we need to be focusing on the problems and identifying solutions to those problems rather than trying to deprive law-abiding citizens from being able to own a firearm.
Senator Crapo with us here. Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. Senator, anything else you'd like to share with us?
No, I just encourage people to keep paying attention. I think the more and more people pay attention to what's happening in Washington, then the less likely they are to be confused or fooled by some of the spin that comes out, and the more ability they will have to influence it as they contact their senators and congressmen, which I encourage Idahoans to do.
You like hearing from the folks?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Well, Senator, you take care of yourself. If we don't talk to you, have a happy Thanksgiving and safe travels.
You too. And by the way, congratulations on the Miller's mission. I think that's a great thing you're doing there.
Well, thank you. I don't think I can talk you into wearing the turkey outfit. I fill it out much, much better, sir. You're in a lot better shape than I am, but thank you.
I look forward to a picture of you in it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
Take care.
You.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Our great friend, Senator Crapo, with us here at KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to the Newsmaker line, and joining us now is that humble, lovable, sweet prince from the Treasure Valley, the Gem State Patriot publisher, Tea Party Bob. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. How are you today?
Living the dream, and thank you for your patience. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Always patient with you. I'd like to weigh in on comments this morning on the recent mass shootings with what I call the inconvenient truth. Nearly every mass shooting incident in the last 20 years and multiple other instances of suicide and isolated shootings are all, they all have one thing in common, and it's not a weapon. It's an overwhelming evidence pointing to the single largest common factor in all of these incidents is the fact that the perpetrators were either actively taking powerful psychotropic drugs or had been at some point in the immediate past before they committed their crimes. Now, these are multiple credible scientific studies going back more than a decade, as well as internal documents from pharmaceutical companies that suppress the information that shows SSRI drugs, or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, if you can figure that out, have well-known but unreported side effects, including but not limited to suicide and other violent behavior. One need only Google the relevant keywords or phrases to see for themselves. When we look closely at the drug problem, we find that many of these drugs are used in the treatment of ADHD for children.
Are you saying there's not a gun problem, there's a drug problem?
That's exactly what I'm getting to. Now, we use these drugs for treatment of ADHD for children, like Ritalin, Prozac, and Zoloft, many times without a proper diagnosis. Approximately 11% of our children, 14 to 17, or about 6.4 million, have been diagnosed with ADHD. It affects 1 in 20 kids, and the numbers have continued to increase for the past 10 years. The most surprising number is that we misdiagnosed about 20% of them. What most people don't know is that school districts can actually receive $1,000 or more in federal money for each child diagnosed and is treated, and this is an incentive for diagnosis of ADHD in many cases. It has to make you wonder if we are not the creators of these mass shootings because of how we treat our kids with these psychotropic drugs. Once again, in our quest to find simple solutions to our problems, we turn to drugs for the answer and wind up with more problems than we bargained for. Just look at the opioid crisis and how it's killing 60,000 Americans a year. Maybe it's time we look at the fact that we have a drug problem in this country and not a gun problem.
We appreciate you listening and your thoughtful and insightful comments as always, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Miller, and you have a great day.
Maybe we'll see you around.
Yes, definitely. I'll be down today.
Oh, all right then. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Tea Party Bob and his award-winning show, Healthy Conclusions. You can catch that every Sunday right after Fox News Sunday here at KIDO Talk Radio at 5 p.m. Coming up next, more of your phone calls. And then, by the way, Ray Amaya, thank you very much for letting me know that Al Stewart is at the Egyptian, not at the Knitting Factory. The Knitting Factory is presenting. See, folks, this is what happens when you assume. Also, make sure you listen today at 8:05, 3:05, and 6:05. Those are AM. 6:05 AM, 8:05 AM, 3:05 PM for the KMLA Christmas cash code word. You type it in. You go to KIDOTalkRadio.com. You go to the trending bar, KMLA's Christmas cash, type it in, and you could win up to $5,000. That'd be some great Thanksgiving cash as well. Coming up next, the CMAs. When you think of country music, the Country Music Awards, you think of patriotism and wholesomeness. Well, last night they decided to smack the president. We'll get your reaction next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And coming up, we'll go live to Seoul, South Korea. John Decker was at the DMZ yesterday. He's with the president exclusively here with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to Blair in Boise. Blair, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Hey, Kevin. Hey, I just want to thank Senator Risch for coming on this morning. And I did have a couple of questions, which maybe you can ask either him or Senator Crapo the next time. And that is, I'd like to know what the GOP is doing to pressure Susan Collins of Maine, John McCain of Arizona, and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, specifically in the Senate, so we can pass some more of these bills, because they've been the ones that have been holding up. They were the ones that blocked reform of the ACA. They're the ones that were causing problems with the budget. And they're going to continue to cause problems until the Republican Party deals with those three, because they only have a 52-48 split in the Senate. Without those three, they can't pass anything. So the next time that you have one of them on, I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't mind asking that question. And the other one I would ask is, when are we going to see? I'm glad that they're working on a tax bill to reduce taxes. When are we going to see a spending reduction bill? Because they've been talking about it, and they haven't got it done. We're still running at over $1 trillion deficit. Both of those need to be addressed. So really appreciate, again, you having them on. You might ask those two questions the next time you get them on. I think we'd be enlightened. Thank you.
Thank you, Blair. Thank you for listening to KIDO Talk Radio.
No worries. Have a great day.
You too. Let's get you to traffic and let's go to Pro-Life. Pro-Life, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Pro-Life. Pro-Life, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Hey, I just running for the phone. I fell down.
I'm sorry.
I guess I've been eating too much sugar. But anyway.
Must be.
No, I don't eat any sugar. And, Tea Party Bob, that was the best thing he's ever said, I believe. And I listen to him on Sunday afternoons. But anyway, farm chemicals, sugar, and, of course, pharmaceuticals, they're killing America. And Tea Party Bob is right. A lot of these, most of them, the people have been on psychotropic drugs. So that's all I've got to say.
No, that's painting with a huge broad brush. Come on.
No, it isn't.
It is.
No, it isn't at all.
It is.
A person's diet, what they take into their body, affects them spiritually.
You can't just say, but you can't just say that it's all about the people on the psychotropic drugs. You got people. I mean, it's like Tom Munns smacking the schools.
Well, you could be on Islam. I mean, if you're a Sharia law believer, you might eat pretty.
Now we just had a lady that was a nice young lady that she said she's a good Muslim.
Well, if you believe in Sharia law, you're not a good person.
Right, but I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the radicals. I'm talking about people that want to be a part of the process, want to live in America. It's a significant problem that's not getting any easier to solve.
Well, I agree about that. But anybody that is Muslim, they're going to have to, this is what I say, that if they don't modify and give up Sharia law compared to our constitutional type of law, then they should leave America.
You're calling for the Muslims, all Muslims, to leave America?
Well, unless they modify and say, no, we're going to accept American culture.
So much for inclusion on this program.
Right, we don't do that. We don't include evil, right?
Fair enough. All right. Like I said, we air everybody's opinion.
All right.
Let's see. What's this? Charles from Portico Pharmacy. It's tropic, not tropic.
Oh.
Everybody's correcting me today. Whatever happened, nobody correcting the host. I like tropic, but it's tropic, according to our pharmacist, Charles in Meridian at the Portico Pharmacy.
Well, tell him thanks for, he's correcting me.
Well, you know what I kind of like? Is it root or is it route?
Yeah.
Exactly. You got to smile a little,
Yeah, you do. And, well.
Hey,
okay.
Are you still calling all the politicians wimps in the states? It's been a while since you've called, the governor, the congressman, the senators all wimps. You haven't done that in a while.
No, but they are still all wimps.
All right. That's you calling him a wimp, not me, because I resemble that remark.
If you're a Republican, you're a wimp.
Right. Hey, we got to get going. We're going to have John Decker on from Seoul, South Korea.
All right. We'll see you.
Thank you. All right. Our great friend Pro Life coming up next. What's the DMZ like? We'll get a first-hand report exclusively right here at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good.
I've been waiting for this conversation all week, and I know you have as well. Our friend John Decker with his trip to the DMZ with the president in Seoul, South Korea. John, good to have you with us.
Hey, it's good to be here, Kevin. Yeah, I got to experience something that President Trump did not experience. He was going to go to the DMZ yesterday. In fact, he was on his way, but his Chinook helicopter turned around because of the fog. And I made it there today. I got back a few hours ago. I was there practically the whole day. I was at the DMZ and what's known as the Joint Security Area, the JSA. And it is fascinating there. Kevin, I must tell you, one of the most interesting experiences of my life. It's something that I think President Trump will regret. If he doesn't regret it right now, he will regret not having gone there. Vice President Mike Pence was there earlier this year, as was Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State, but the president did not make it there.
What was it like, John? Paint the picture, please.
Well, absolutely. So just to give you a sense about where I am and where the DMZ is. So I'm in Seoul, South Korea. I've been staying the week, obviously, at the Press Hotel that was here to cover the president's visit. And the DMZ is about 35 miles away. So it takes about an hour or so to get there. And once there, you get the sense that you are entering an area that is unlike perhaps anything in this world. You as you approach the area getting closer to the DMZ, you see the barbed wire associated with the area that separates the demilitarized zone, the north from the south, going up there. Just give you a sense. So the DMZ, it's this buffer zone between North and South Korea. It's 160 miles long. It's 2.5 miles wide. And you see that as you're traveling up to this area. And then once you get up to the DMZ, it's heavily fortified, as you can probably imagine. And we're brought to the area that's the DMZ, which is, just an area in which the military describes it as the most militarized, demilitarized zone in the world. And then we're also brought to the Joint Security Area. This is the area in which there are a number of buildings that are owned, some occupied by both North Korean military and South Korean and U.S. military. We went into a building that's known as the Conference Building, and this is the building in which the border between North and South is essentially right in half of this building. One half of a conference table is North Korea. The other half is South Korea. And I went on the side that was in North Korea. So essentially, I was in North Korea at one point today. You have to be pretty mindful of what you can take pictures of. Our military minder was very adamant about what we should and should not do, and I listened to him. This is something he deals with every day, this tension-filled environment between the North and the South. There haven't been major incidents in a number of years. That being said, you just never know. And so I listened to everything he told me to do, and I made it back to Seoul alive, I'm happy to say.
We're happy about that. John Decker joining us from Seoul, South Korea, talking about his trip to the DMZ. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. So, John, let's get back to it. What were the buildings like? Were they new? Were they old? Was it a trip back in time? And when you looked across and saw the North Koreans looking at you, again, a lifetime of experience covering news and being a part of it, your thoughts?
Well, that's right. You're staring at them. They're staring at you. I pretty much every time I travel, no matter where I go, I bring binoculars, and I brought my binoculars on this trip. So I got a good sense, about who it is that was staring at me not too far away in the building. As far as the buildings are concerned, they're all blue buildings, which signify the color of the United Nations. And these are the buildings which are the same buildings which were in place in 1953 when the armistice was signed, which brought an end to the conflict between the North and the South. There was an armistice signed, not a peace treaty, so technically both sides are still at war. And what I got a sense of, Kevin, is that were it not for, in particular, the U.S. military, I have no doubt that at some point over the course of the past few decades, North Korea would have tried to infiltrate South Korea. In fact, we were brought to one tunnel that was discovered by the South Koreans back in 1978, and I went inside that tunnel. Remarkable to be inside that tunnel and to see what the North Koreans were trying to do. They had built a series of tunnels with the idea of a coordinated attack on South Korea, but that was foiled by the South Koreans.
John, can you disclose what you weren't allowed to photograph, and obviously what you weren't allowed to do and why?
Well, I think that, I've been at Guantanamo too, and I think that a lot of it has to do with the positioning of the U.S. military and the ROK, the Republic of Korea military. That's something that they don't want to disclose. In the same vein, when I was at Guantanamo, they don't want you. In fact, when you're at Guantanamo, not to get far afield from what we're talking about, the military looks literally at every frame of video that you shoot, every still that you shoot, and video that they don't feel they want out in the public domain. They make you delete it, and they watch you delete it. They don't do that at the DMZ, but they're very, mindful of what it is they want to get out there in terms of the positioning of the U.S. military and the military from South Korea. So, that I can understand that. These individuals, these military members, deal with this tension every day. In fact, Kevin, I asked a question to my military minder. Given that North Korea has test fired 6 nuclear weapons this year alone, I asked if, tensions have been increased, at the DMZ over the course of the past year, expecting the answer to be, of course. And the answer, surprisingly to me, was, well, no, we are always vigilant. We are always ready for some sort of infiltration, some sort of attack by the North Koreans. We are vigilant 24/7, 365. And so those events, those test firing of ballistic missiles, of nuclear weapons, have not changed our posture in any way.
John Decker joining us from the Seoul, South Korea, from his trip to the DMZ on KIDO Talk Radio. John, finally, when you looked at the North Koreans, what did you see?
Well, when you look at the North Koreans, you see North Koreans who are dressed in that North Korean sort of drab green uniform. They are at attention. They almost seem like they're, sort of waxed figures. But at the same time, they're looking on. And, they're heavily armed, just as those on the Allied side are, the U.S. and South Korea. But, look, I think one of the things that, you also notice is the way that the soldiers from South Korea are positioned. They're positioned in such a way that half of their body is exposed and half of their body is behind one of these buildings that I described. And they feel that is sort of a posture that allows them that if there was attack, they would, at least one of them would survive those attacks. But I have to tell you, you have to keep in mind there's 1,500 pieces of artillery aimed on a daily basis at Seoul, this city of 10 million people. In addition, there's 2 million landmines that are buried on the North Korean border. And so this is, perhaps the most tense, the most dangerous part of the world. It's the reason why it's the biggest foreign policy challenge for President Trump.
What was it like for you to be in North Korea? How much danger did you sense there?
Well, in all honesty, I'm in a room, and in that room, when I'm on the North Korean side, are two ROK, Republic of Korea soldiers. That's our side. There's also a U.S. Army infantryman. And so I felt completely safe. And also keep in mind, this building is a dual-use building,
right,
meaning that this building also is used for tours by North Koreans, believe it or not. 30,000 individuals go through tours organized by the North Koreans, and they go in the same building, and they probably are on both the North Korean and South Korean side. So it's quite fascinating that this type of environment exists in 2017, and, President Trump is trying to bring a diplomatic end to the nuclear crisis, but in the meantime, this kind of environment continues, and these tours continue to the DMZ on a regular basis. It's believe it or not, profitable probably for both sides. You have tour groups that leave from Seoul, and you have tour groups that leave from Pyongyang, and there was a tour group just a few weeks ago that was taking pictures from the North Korean side of Secretary of State Rex Tillerson. That gives you a sense about how odd this situation is right now.
Yeah, but when you cross that line in that room, there is a line in that room, right?
There's not a physical line in the room. So the room is marked by a conference table.
Right.
And if you're on one side of the conference table, it's North Korea, and, the other side of the table is South Korea. And, there's when we're in the room, there's actually a Republic of Korea soldier who is stationed on the North Korean side. And the reason that he's on the North Korean side is there's a door right behind him, and he is there to protect anybody who, for whatever reason, would want to go through that door.
Chilling. John Decker, we can't wait for you to get home, but chilling your firsthand accounts of being there. It's something that most of us, thankfully, will never see, but I just picture that in my mind. The guard there in front of the door to make sure, no one goes in there or no one comes out of it. Thank you, sir.
That's right. That's exactly right, Kevin. No, fascinating. And again, I was fortunate to do it. And, I think that if President Trump had done it, it would have been the highlight, or at least one of the highlights from his trip to Asia. But maybe it'll be another time. It's going to be this issue of North Korea and the nuclear crisis is going to be on his plate, I think, for certainly the remainder of his first term.
John Decker, enjoy the frequent flyer miles.
All right, I'll do that, Kevin. I'll talk to you from Washington when I get back.
Thank you, sir. Safe travels.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Our great friend John Decker. And again, we're so blessed to be a part of the Fox News family. John Decker describing what it's like to be at the DMZ right here in Idaho. We don't have to leave Idaho to go to the DMZ. Fascinating work. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Let's keep rolling here. And let's go to Ronnie in Caldwell at KIDO Talk Radio. I had a young lady come up to me at church the other night and say, "Is Ronnie real? He drives me crazy, but I can't stop listening." Good morning, sir.
I know. And she probably asked if I was sexy, too, did she?
No, not at church.
Oh. Well, you could have said something like, you could have helped me out a little bit and said he's handsome.
I don't think you need help from me, brother.
I know. I don't. Not in that department, man. Hey,
I think her husband would have had an issue on that too, as well. So.
Oh, married lady, huh? Yeah.
A very nice, smart young lady, and like I said, she asked me about you as I was once again leaving church early, which shame on me, but let's self-report. What can we do for you here at KIDO Talk Radio, sir?
And I've heard you sneak out early. That's sort of a cool move, though.
They call it the Miller maneuver. Yes.
I think it's called the rock star move, dude. But I sort of like your style there.
I see.
Okay. Here's the thing. I listen to you all the time, but sometimes I listen really deep. Like I put my ear right to the speaker and really let it get in. And I'm going to tell you a story about me fishing one time, and I'll make it quick, okay? But
Sure.
There's a point to this. I caught this fish one time, and it was really different. It was small, but it's something like I never seen before. So I said, you know what, Ronnie? I think it's a good idea you put that in your fish tank at home. So I did. I put it in there, and he started to grow a little bigger. And the next thing
I'm sorry. We just had one of the best reports ever from the DMZ. Let's reload. Ronnie, thank you for the call. We appreciate the little fishy update. KIDO Talk Radio, traffic and weather.
SmartVestor Pro.
Let's go back to the phones. Max, thanks for your patience. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Max.
Hey, it's been a while. How you doing, friend?
Glad to see you're still with us.
Oh, yeah. I have just finished a 12-day odyssey. I took my family from China and my wife. I put them in the Escape, and we drove the entire Southwest. We went everywhere. We went places we shouldn't have gone. That's a story. What I'm doing is I'm calling to give some good news. I was away from America just on 20 years. I had not really had any contact with the U.S. I was working in medical missions, mostly in China. And I want to tell you what, the American people are more friendly than I've ever remembered them. They're more courteous. They're more considerate. This country is cleaner than I remembered. The United States of America may have problems. Sure we do. Crooked winocrats running around trying to change our government. But the country at large is healthy, clean, and a wonderful place to be. Now I've got 5 family members from China who want to be Americans. The trip totally, my one brother-in-law is a staunch party member. He flipped completely in the 10 days he was here.
Well, there's a blessing for all of us, isn't there?
Well, think about it. You know what? My book, Eyes on China, if you're listening out there, guys, you need to read the book. You need to read the book. It's a really accurate picture of life on the other side of the pond. What can I say? I'm just so happy to be in America, happy to be an American. Right now, in fact, I'm sitting in the parking lot of the VA hospital. Go in and get a little cortisone shot in the knuckle.
Well, get one for me. All right, brother. Thank you, Max. Thank you for listening to KIDO Talk Radio.